everybody. Welcome to This Week in Football with Africans, or the Africa. You know what? JD, you did this to me. How is everybody doing this fine Sunday? It's Easter for those of you who are celebrating. Happy Easter to you as well. I know it's still Ramadan for our Muslim brethren, so we want to give you a shout out during that time frame as well. Today's going to be an abbreviated version because we're all either avoiding family or trying to find an interesting conversation to have around the table. So I just want to do a quick rundown of some of the top leagues, what's happening, what kind of things that caught our attention, and then also a question at the end, kind of to think about, which is, what is your most unpopular football opinion? It could be football take or things. Someone sent me a video on African qualifiers, and I tend to be on the opposite side of it, which made me want to ask the question for others. So guys, if you new to the channel, we do primarily Canadian, African, and club football. We're just covering some of this briefly today. Don't forget to leave us a like, subscribe, leave us a comment if you find anything interesting here, if you want to continue the discussion. Let's begin looking at what's happening in the Prem right now. Here's what the table looks like. We got Man City sitting up top, coming in with a draw, still a point up. They did have FA Cup matchups and fixtures today, but I think an interesting result here, which could have made things interesting. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get a result. Burnley versus West Ham. No winner there. That could have put West Ham back into that sixth spot, so a little bit closer to either Europa or even Champions League. But that draw really does hinder their chances of staying in shouting distance. They're still close, but time is running out on them. We're looking at some of the other results coming through. Top two look like they're there. Top three look pretty set, but Tottenham being able to get into that fourth spot, they do look safe for now, but Man U isn't too far, and all Man U needs to do is put up a few wins and they'll be right back there in their position. Arsenal seems to be losing their form again, dropping another matchup here, and we're really hoping that they're able to continue upwards, because now if they continue to slip, that gives not only West Ham but even potentially a team like Wolves a chance to maybe sneak back in, establish themselves and get into that top 6 or 5 for either Europa or even potentially Champions League. So it's definitely one thing to take a look at. When we take a look at the Bundesliga, we have, again, top 3 pretty much looking the same, 9 points separating each from each, 9 points between first and second, Bayern and Dortmund, and then Leipzig, 9 points behind Dortmund. Bayern Leverkusen, though, 2 points behind Leipzig, so definitely a closer call, with Freiburg just nipping on the ends there. So Leverkusen is not necessarily free as the season starts to wrap up and getting closer to the end. So that race for those final Champions League spots will be interesting. Hoffenheim has been slipping. I know they were a little bit closer to the top as well, but they still are in shouting distance of Europa Conference League as well as the Europa League. So it's a good shout to watch them, to see kind of what's happening in that league, and kind of interesting to see what is available for them. So looking out to the end of that season, as a Canadian, is happy to see a player like Davies back on the pitch playing. Had a bit of a gaffe in Champions League, which we will cover in a few minutes, but still definitely something to really watch out. See how those last spots for Champions League goes. That last spot really is. Last year we had Wolfsburg in that spot. Now the question is going to be, will Leverkusen be able to hold on, or will Freiburg or even Union Berlin be able to climb up and steal a spot at the death? We'll have to watch, wait, and see. When it comes to Serie A, a little bit of movement. I think Napoli dropping a game this past time is really given a little bit of space and breathing for the Milans, both Inter and AC, still at the top of the table, but AC still with a spot game in hand, game above. So Inter 1 game behind, looking to really come through. Juve still holding on to decent form. Roma climbing, but I don't think there's enough. They could, in theory. They only need 2 more slip-ups. They need really 1 slip-up, and they should be able to catch potentially Juve for that 4th spot, but it's going to be a tough one to do. Fiorentina and Lazio battling it out for that 5th and 6th spots for Conference League as well as the Europa. So again, Serie A definitely looking interesting as to what could happen and what could actually come through there. Looking at the bottom, Venezia watching that team as well. A little bit further back, they need a nice string of form, and maybe Caligari to struggle a little bit for them to get out. Genoa, the same thing. So that relegation battle is looking the same there. So definitely looking forward to see what Serie A is able to give us. Again, briefly running through. Also happening this weekend in the Prem, we did have the FA Cup semis where it's going to be Chelsea versus Liverpool, which means Liverpool is still, somehow, they are still in the running to have a quadruple. So win the FA, win their league title, the Champions League, and then I forget what the fourth one is. It's off my mind. I do apologize that it's coming off my mind, but they are there. They were able to defeat Man City yesterday, and then Chelsea was able to beat Crystal Palace today. So you're looking at a Chelsea-Liverpool matchup in the final of the FA Cup. A nice matchup. Tough night for Zach Steffen with Man City, the American keeper. Bad turnover giveaway that led to a goal. Did not have a good time for him, and Twitter was not kind to him. But still, maybe one I saw was following 11EX. They were saying, probably true. Maybe it's time for him to try to get a move to get some more playing time somewhere else. Definitely has seen growth in the player, but you want that player to be playing, especially with the World Cup coming in November. And then, not forgotten, is we had the Champions League. I think this was the biggest surprise earlier this week. Villarreal getting a 1-1 draw, thus essentially eliminating Bayern. 2-1 on aggregate. Samuel Chukwueze able to score the goal the 88th minute. Davies, bad positioning. I mean, we have questions. Davies was put in as a center back at the end, maybe trying to get a goal and push more players forward. But Davies definitely left Chukwueze onside and kept him there. Chukwueze was able to finish, the shocking leaving the Giants of Germany out of the semis for the second year in a row. Yeah, second year in a row, they won't be in the finals after winning it 2 years ago. So Bayern definitely has some questions. There's been rumors about what Lewandowski might do afterwards, but I mean, it's definitely one to watch. And then the other matchups coming through, we saw Atletico Madrid drawing with Man City. I mean, Man City would move on that aspect, which is fine. Liverpool were able to upend Benfica on a 6-4 aspect. So that 3-3 draw there sent Liverpool through. And then Real Madrid, I mean, every time we count them out, they seem to be coming right back and able to get a 5-4 win on aggregate, though losing the match 3-2, able to move on to the semis. Man, Karim Benzema, Luka Modric, don't tell me old age is going to affect players, because these players are giving us great reminders of their quality and their ability at these large stages. And hey, Benzema's a player who scores in big games, and he's continuing to do that. So I am excited to see what the semis for the Champions League will look like once we get some dates and times coming through with that. We'll definitely cover those. And that's just a quick rundown of what was happening in some leagues that were happening throughout. Now, I did say I did have a question I wanted to ask, and we're going to ask a question. The question is simply this: what is your soccer/football controversial opinion? Now, just to give you a bit of context to where this comes from, I had a follower send me a video on whether they thought the African qualifiers for the World Cup were a fair process. So if you're not familiar, Africa ran 10 groups of 4 teams. The winners of each group then were put into a pool. And then they picked up 2 matchups. They had 2 pools, 2 matchups, and then you had 1 home and 1 away leg. And the winner of that went to the World Cup. It's the second time they've tried it. The first time they've tried it was actually back in for the 2014 World Cup. And that's a famous run in Africa because Egypt lost 1 game in qualifiers. Unfortunately, that game they lost 6-1 to Ghana in Ghana. And they lost on aggregate 7-3. Because then they won in Egypt on the second leg 2-1. And that was the end of it. This time, Egypt came in again, good form, lost 1 game to Senegal, then went on to penalties and lost that. And then that equaled what we had here, where you had Senegal going over. That game looked like a disco. Let's not pretend. It looked like a disco. There were that many laser pointers. But the more I've thought about it, it's unfair because you're not letting groups. But in terms of having the best teams play, it's actually not that bad of a system where you have the best 10 teams. There isn't an additional round, so there's a month break in between. The teams are generally healthy. It allows players to get healthy. Again, health in football is the luck of a draw sometimes. You can either have a healthy squad or you can have another team where you find yourself right before everything goes down. 3 players have come down with like a virus, you're done. Look at Comoros at AFCON. Played well, and then next thing you know, half their team is gone and they have to play a left back as their keeper. But the way that it's set up, I don't mind it because it at least allows the teams there. And the way that I look at it, I'll put it this way. Would you rather get to the end, face off another team of quality, know that you just have to win, be ahead in 2 games, and win that? Or would you rather do a full group, you end up having a bad weekend in Madagascar, and then because of that, you're now a point behind, and because of that bad weekend over a journey, you aren't able to win? It's a conversation to really have, and I see both points of it, but to me, I think right now that's my unpopular opinion right now, that I think that format works. Now, someone said, well, if you did that in CONCACAF, right? What if it was looking at what the results were? Say if it was Canada versus Mexico. Yeah, it's a little harsh. There's no doubt about that. It's a little harsh. It's very harsh, let's be real. But both teams would have had the time to put their squads together, pick the best, and then from there, it's on the pitch. In the same way, it's the same thing, I would say, as having groups, but the only difference would be you're dealing with now more games, more opportunities, and then we're not, right? And it's easy for me to say this as a Canadian because it's like, yeah, we were at the top of qualifying, so there weren't many teams that we lost 1, let alone 2 games to. If you're looking at Ghana was able to make it there. They weren't the best team, but when it came down, they put down a strategy and they were able to accomplish what they were trying to accomplish. But no, so that would be mine right now. And like I've seen others. There's another one that I have where it's, I think, continental tournaments, so Euros, AFCON, Gold Cup, Common Bowl, Asia. I think they should happen every 4 years. I know why the other ones have them. Don't get me wrong. I know why Africa runs it every 2 years, and I understand why you have to do that. The same way that the Gold Cup runs every 2 years as well. But for me, I think if you're qualifying teams, I think if you've won your continent, and I'm going to say this now, this has nothing to do with the fact that Italy didn't make the World Cup. But my second, maybe unpopular opinion would be, I think if you win your federation tournament, you should be in the World Cup because that is a accomplishment in itself, right? And I think it's really curious if you look at, say, how Africa runs it, because every time in Africa, there's always like a couple teams that make runs that you don't see coming. Like Madagascar had a run, Comoros had a run, Cape Verde had a run as well. And you're just like, imagine if not only that, you now have the opportunity to see, it's not only winning AFCON, it's getting your team there. And what that then allows you to, imagine, for example, doing that does 2 things in my opinion. The first thing is, it gives those tournaments more value and more meaning. You have to respect it more. And if you have teams who can qualify for a World Cup off of a tournament, imagine that. Like, imagine if you are, say, like, think of Jamaica a few years back where they made the finals. Imagine not only if they have winning the Gold Cup, they have making the World Cup on top of that on the line, right? I think if you do something like that, you increase the quality of the players that you can have there. But also, once a team makes it, you essentially can make space for another team to fight for qualification as well. So imagine you go in, look at the Gold Cup this year. The US is able to win it. So they win. So let's assume they're already qualifying for the World Cup. And then you replace them with a team who's just outside, let's say like a Haiti or a Curacao, right? Now you add them to it. I think the more teams you put there, the more you open up the opportunities for other teams and other players to come through. And I think you add to the profile of those tournaments because they matter more. It's a birth to the World Cup. If you can make it there, great. If not, then you go and you move on towards your continental qualifications. And I think that would be interesting. Again, but that's probably my two unpopular opinions. But I'm wondering what you guys are thinking. So let me know in the comments below. Do you like those ideas? What are some of your unpopular opinions that you have when it comes to sport? I know I did this on our pod, and running match time, simulation, feigning injuries, diving, things like that. I've heard ideas where it says just run the clock only to 60 minutes, and anytime there's an injury, you stop the clock immediately, and there's no other things. So if there's an injury, you stop the clock, and then it winds up. Same thing with substitutions. You stop and you run it. I've heard interesting things like that. And I mean, I see their point to it, but I'm wondering what you guys think. Let me know in the comments down below what your most unpopular opinion is for the sport. And we'll go from there. We have a week of content of things coming out. We have interviews. We decided to put a full episode of our podcast on. It's going to be dropping on Wednesday. It's going to be dropping on Tuesday, actually. Tuesday. And then for Canadian viewers, there's going to be content coming because we're waiting for the U17 from women's roster to drop as their tournament starts on Saturday. So we're going to be watching that as well. But guys, thank you again for spending some time with us. I'm hoping you're enjoying your weekend. Don't forget to give us a like, subscribe, leave us a comment. Let me know what your most unpopular opinion in soccer is. And let me know what caught your attention this past week in soccer/football. This is what you're saying. From the Africans, goodbye for now.